Happy holidays, everyone. I'm James Lynch. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the ranked UFC fighters who did not fight this year, who did not compete in the octagon. And shout out to Andy Hickey on Twitter. This is a great guy to follow. This is what kind of inspired me to do this video, because he put it out there, and I think it would be a cool topic to kind of go through every fighter here, because there's a few on here that I forgot did not even fight at all. So I think today's video is kind of a cool topic where we can go through every fighter and talk about why they didn't fight, because there's some names on here maybe you're looking at here and you're going, why didn't they compete? Well, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of explain that. And let's start at the very top with former UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. Did not fight at all. In fact, he hasn't fought in a while. Stipe Miocic's last fight was the Francis Ngannou title fight way back in March of 2021 at UFC 260. So we're coming up here to UFC 300 next year. It's almost 40 pay-per-view events since the last time Stipe fought. So yeah, obviously supposed to fight John Jones in November 11th. Jones getting the injury there. So not really Stipe's fault. I'm not sure why this fight didn't happen earlier. You know, there was talks about this happening at UFC 285. They ended up going with Cyril Gane instead. I'm not sure what the deal was there. I don't think anyone really got a full explanation as to why they didn't happen. So I think there was an opportunity for these two to fight regardless of what happened with John Jones at UFC 295, but it's unfortunate. You know, fingers crossed this fight actually happens in 2024. He could have fought Tom Aspinall, but look, I've mentioned this in many videos. I understand why Stipe's not going to fight Tom Aspinall. He's probably got one fight left. Why wouldn't you want to fight one of the greatest of all time in John Jones instead of fighting Tom Aspinall? Nothing against Tom, but John obviously has the accolades and the resume there. So much bigger fight there. So yes, no Stipe Miocic this past year. Okay, let's move on to Brian Ortega. He has not fought in a long time. His last fight was the injury fight against Yair Rodriguez in July of 2022. So he is scheduled to rematch Rodriguez in February. So that's good. He'll be back in the early quarter of next year. But in general, I feel like he hasn't fought a lot. Right, he had that long layoff after Max Holloway, fought Korean Zombie, fought a little bit after that against Volkanovski, but it's been a lot of inactivity for Ortega, which is unfortunate because I think he's one of the best featherweights in the world. I'm really excited to see this rematch with Rodriguez to see what actually, because again, I know Rodriguez won, but there was a bit of an injury there, so would like to see how this all sort of plays out. And Ortega is usually the example I use of a fighter that if you haven't competed in over a year, you should be out of the rankings. I think he's a great example of this. I don't mind him rematching Rodriguez because of the way the fight ended, but I also think that if you're not competing, injury or not, you shouldn't be taking up other spots for fighters who are active. That's just, maybe that's a video topic in itself, is talking about ranked fighters should be out of the rankings if they haven't competed. But yes, excited to see Brian Ortega back in action in February. Okay, next fighter we're going to look at, Alexander Rakic. So Rakic, if you remember, has not fought since the fight with Jan Blachowicz back in May of 2022. Had a leg injury in that fight. Similar situation to Ortega, actually. So he hasn't fought in a while. They tried to put the fight with him and Blachowicz in January, but Blachowicz out with a shoulder injury. So they've now rebooked him against Yuri Prochazka at UFC 300, which is going to be a great fight, most likely on the prelims. So it's going to be almost more than 2 years since he's last competed. So long layoff here for Rakic coming in. Haven't heard much from Rakic. I've told you guys I've tried to get in touch with him for an interview. I think he's only done like maybe 1 or 2 interviews, not many. The only other thing that I know he did an interview on was that whole scuffle he had with Jimmy Manuel, which I believe was after the Jan Blachowicz fight. So haven't heard much from Rakic. Going to try and reach out again and get something from him before the fight with Yuri Prochazka. But yes, Rakic not getting to compete in 2023. Okay, next fighter, Michael Chandler. Kind of obvious. Was waiting for the Conor fight. This is another one where I don't know why the Conor McGregor fight did not end up happening. It looked like it was going to happen at UFC 295. Did the whole show with the Ultimate Fighter, and we still don't have a fight date yet. I did not think we'd be sitting here December 27th doing this video and talking about how Michael Chandler doesn't have a fight with Conor McGregor book. I still want to see the fight. I hope they rebook it. If that Conor fight for whatever reason isn't happening, then let's get this moving here, because Iron Mike, not exactly young here, 37 years old, would like to see him back in action. The unfortunate part is that Chandler's been fully healthy. It's just for whatever reason, the McGregor fight has not come to fruition. Okay, Paulo Costa, everyone's favorite punching bag in terms of, I'd say that just because I hear so many people saying Paulo Costa should be cut. He does all this, different stuff, doesn't want to fight, all that. Look, there are some things that I am absolutely in agreement with a lot of fans when it comes to Paulo Costa and his antics, including, the Marvin Vettori fight, where midway through the week, he's like, yeah, we're going to fight at 205, not 185. But Paulo Costa, a bit of unfortunate luck here, has not fought since August of 2022. Was supposed to fight Ikram. They ended up rebooking him and Ikram to different fights. And the Chimaev fight, he ends up getting an elbow infection, which was kind of bad on his part, because if you remember, he posted something on social media, and then I think the UFC's like, well, hold on a second here, we can't have him fight, and then the doctors wouldn't clear him. Right now, he's scheduled to fight Robert Whittaker in February of 2024 at UFC 298, although I saw the other day, says the contracts aren't signed. Let's hope that Paulo Costa fights this year, because it's been too long. He's a great personality, fun fighter to watch. I just want to see him compete. And I'm kind of with people where, you get a little bit frustrated not seeing him compete so much. So Paulo Costa did not fight this year. Okay, Calvin Kattar, 23-7. Similar thing to, what I mentioned there with Rakic and with Brian Ortega. So Kattar has not fought since the fight with Arnold Allen, where he had a knee injury. That was back in October of 2022. So same sort of thing. Hurt himself and hasn't been able to come back. And now he's fighting Aljamain Sterling, which is an interesting fight at UFC 300. Sterling, the former bantamweight champion, moving up. So again, with leg injuries and stuff, like, I'm not totally surprised you see fighters out more than a year. You got to be careful with that stuff. You're kicking your legs, you're running with your legs, all this. So in the case of, Kattar and Rakic, understandable why Kattar did not fight this year, and probably for the best. But you would like to see Kattar be a little bit more active when he does get back. He's 35 years old, not getting any younger. Jack Hermansson did not fight this year. He's 35. Same sort of thing with Kattar. He's got to get back in there and fight. So he hasn't fought since the Roman Dolidze fight in December of 2022. Where he got finished. It was actually a fight he was looking good early on, and then he got finished in that one. It's been a while. The Brunson fight, Brunson had an injury, and then he was supposed to fight Brendan Allen, and he withdrew. I'm not sure what's going on with him. I don't know if it's injury related. He's another fighter that hopefully I'll get an interview with here pretty soon. I'm not sure why he's been out for so long. I haven't really seen much in the news. He hasn't done much media. But yeah, you'd hope to see the Joker pretty active in 2024. Tough fight here against Joe Pfeiffer. I know some people don't like this matchup. I love this matchup. I think it makes a lot of sense. If Pfeiffer wins, you're building him up properly. You're giving him a good test. And Hermansson, he needs to bounce back. There was a point when he was considered a contender in the division. Remember, he had that big stoppage win over Kelvin Gastelum a couple years ago, but really has not been able to win those sort of bigger fights like the Vettori fight, Strickland, the Dolidze. So he needs this win more than anyone. So excited to see him back in 2024. Okay, Alex Perez. Just did an interview with Alex Perez actually the other, I think it was last week. Is there anyone who has worse luck than Alex Perez? Now, some of it's self-inflicted. There was a couple times when he's missed weight, but look at all these canceled fights since basically 2020. You could go back even further and look at, Pettis never panned out, Kai Kara France. But look at this. Schnell, Askarov, Schnell, Askarov, Albazi, France, Kopp. Like, a variety of different reasons why I haven't seen him compete. So his last fight was July of 2022. Supposed to fight Albazi, had to withdraw. Not sure what happened there. France had an injury, so he was out of that. And then the Kopp fight, Perez had issues on fight night. I believe that was weight cut related, if I'm not mistaken. Did get the one grappling match in there with Roman Bravo Young. But obviously excited to see him compete. And he's fighting, he's got a tough test here in Muhammad Mokaev. Fights in Saudi Arabia. I think the UFC knows who they want to win this fight. So big fight here for Perez if he wants to continue moving on here. 31 years old. Go check out that interview. He's had some stuff to deal with outside the cage as well. You can find that in my UFC interviews playlist, but really good stuff there from Alex Perez. Excited to see what he can do this year. Dominick Cruz, kind of an obvious one. The thing with Cruz is, and I don't think I'm alone here, is he retired or is he not? Like, I think that's the big thing. We see him every week on the broadcast. We don't really hear much of an update from Cruz. He's 38. I mean, I don't really know where he goes from here, right? His last fight was the Chito Vera fight where he was finished. That was in August in 2022. He got knocked out. First time Cruz has been finished he's been finished, I guess, 2 times now. He's been finished actually in 2 of his last 4 fights, which is very undominant Cruz-like. Typically, he's been pretty durable throughout his career. But I just want to know, is he retired or not? If he's not retired, then I'm of the belief that you got to start fighting ranked guys and just keeping this going, right? So I know there's been rumblings about him and Cody Garbrandt. I think that fight makes a lot of sense. That's a rematch. They're 2 big names. Would love to see that in the prelims. But if Cruz doesn't want to fight Cody Garbrandt, then I say it's probably time to hang it up. I mean, he's done very well with his commentary and all that. I just think at this point, like, it's just kind of clogging up the rankings if you're not competing. And as far as I know, it hasn't been injury related. I think it's probably he just is waiting for the right fight, and maybe Garbrandt will be that fight at UFC 300. Okay, Renato Moicano. I know this one kind of surprised me. I kind of forgot that he has not fought at all this year. 34 years old. He had that fight scheduled with Arman Saryukin. Of course, Arman ended up fighting. I think that was the Joaquim Silva fight, if I'm not mistaken. Was supposed to fight Arman. Doesn't end up panning out in April. And then we haven't seen him since. So the injury must have been pretty serious that he's been out for a while. But I think if anything, Moicano's actually been in the minds of a lot of MMA fans because of his YouTube channel. I very much enjoy the content he's putting on there. He's doing a great job. I love the whole, Money Moicano thing. Going to be a really fun fight with him and Drew Dober on February 3rd. That's coming up next year. Keeping it going, Matt Schnell, who we just mentioned there in the Alex Perez fight. Not sure why Matt's been out for so long. David Dvorak was supposed to fight him on that Vancouver card, had to withdraw from that. That's where Steve Erceg stepped in, and they were supposed to fight Erceg and withdrew from that as well. I'm guessing it's injury related, but not entirely sure. He has not fought since December of 2022, Matt Schnell is, so hopefully we'll see him back in the cage here pretty soon. Going over to the women, Macy Chasson did not fight at all this year. Was supposed to fight Yana Santos in July. Not sure why she had to withdraw. I think that was an injury, if I'm not mistaken. So her last fight was the Irene Aldana matchup back in September of 2022. She's currently scheduled to fight Ketlin Vieira on the first card of 2024. Carla Esparza gave birth. She became a mom, so that's why she's been out. That's why we have not seen her since the fight with Weili Zhang, which was back in November. No word on when she's going to come back. But yeah, that was late 2022. It's been a year. I would imagine we'll see her booked here pretty soon. You'd think so, because she's a former UFC champion. Whoops, forgot about Dominick Reyes for some reason I forgot him on the mail list, but we'll just talk about him here quickly. Obviously, we've not seen him since he got knocked out by Ryan Spann back in November of last year. Probably for the best that he's taken some time off after being knocked out in 3 straight fights. Fighting Carlos Ulberg, tough fight for him on the Toronto card. Ulberg's got some serious knockout power. So yeah, we'll be seeing Dominick on the first pay-per-view of the year, 34 years old. This is a must-win fight. I don't think there's any way looking around it. 4 straight losses, 3 knockout losses. It's a must-win here for Dominick Reyes. And again, I don't have an issue with him being out for so long because when it comes to head trauma, probably best to take some more time off. The other 2 females who did not compete this year, aside from Chukagian and Macy Chasson, aside from Pena and Macy Chasson, is Caitlin Chukagian. There, it started with a C. That's what threw me off. Chukagian has not fought since the Manon Fior fight in October. I have no idea why she did not fight this year. I don't think she became a mom or anything. I didn't hear anything about that. I don't know of any major injuries. Unfortunately, due to who she's rep by management wise, haven't been able to get an interview with her. But yeah, I would like to hear from her soon. But interesting fight here with Macy Barber. Big fight here at UFC 299. And last but not least, Juliana Pena did not compete this year. Had the big fight with Amanda Nunes, the trilogy. Couldn't end up getting to the fight because she was injured, and we haven't heard from her since. She must still be injured. Otherwise, I would think they would have gone with her and Raquel Pennington instead of Myra Silva. But yeah, as far as I know, Pena's still out with an injury is my understanding. Won't be fighting Amanda Nunes, who retired. So she'll probably end up getting the winner of Raquel Pennington and Myra Silva at UFC 297, which is for the vacant title. So there's the full list. Fighters who did not compete. Any fighters on this list surprise you at all? Anything I missed here? Again, I tried to go off what I kind of remember from this year as far as why fighters did not compete. And do you like these types of videos? Let me know. Things in the news. We can make these into videos. I think it's pretty interesting. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.